Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to go over an overview of the crafting system in Outriders, as this is one of the most important systems in the game for creating your build. Now before we get into the video, less than 5% of people that watch my videos are subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with all of my uploads. Once Outriders is fully released, the crafting system will be an important part of the game from when you start the game all the way through the entirety of the endgame. Because not only does it have ways to increase the power of your items to keep them at your level while leveling up if you choose to do so, and increase rarity, it even has tools to be able to completely change the way items function. And we do know most of the information about the crafting system. There's a few parts that we're not exactly certain on, but by the end of this video, you should have a pretty firm grasp on everything you can do with the crafting system. And you can check this out on the Outriders wiki. That's where I'm getting all the basic write-ups for all the different crafting functions. And then I'm going to give some additional information and explanation of these systems after the basic write-up. So first off, we have Improve Rarity. Improve gear's rarity to increase its primary stats, so firepower for weapons and armor for armor pieces, and receive an additional mod. The bonus attribute stats of the improved item will be randomly raised. When improving rare and epic items, you will also be allowed to select one of 3 randomly generated mods to add to them. Improving the rarity of common and unusual items cost iron or leather, and improving the rarity of rare items cost titanium, and then epic and legendary items cannot be upgraded. So this piece of the crafting system seems to be something that's going to be less useful once you get into the end game, unless there's a few specific instances where something may be super strong and you want to upgrade it up to epic, but you can't upgrade any items to legendary because all legendary items are pretty much a unique item with its own tier 3 mod on it, and it really wouldn't make sense to upgrade to epic and then just randomly spit out this unique item with its own unique mod on it. So it's only up to epic, and the rarities below rare cost iron and leather, which are kind of the more basic resources. And then when you want to upgrade a rare item to epic, that costs titanium. And one of the strongest parts of this system is once you upgrade a rare item to epic, which costs titanium, you also get to choose the second mod out of 3 randomly generated mods. So you could possibly do this to have a chance at choosing a mod that you have not gotten yet, and then be able to scrap that item and get that mod and add that into your library to use on other items. So there could be some ways to use this more into the end game. And then we have the raise attributes system, and this is the part of crafting that we don't know a ton of information on. There's actually not much additional information past the write-up on the wiki. And this system is raise the attributes of selected gear using anomaly shards. Attributes have 6 upgrade stages available, displayed below each attribute in the crafting menu. Shards are exclusive for each attribute and can be obtained by disassembling other items. The type of shard you'll get is indicated by the shard icon next to the attribute on that item. When disassembling an item whose attributes have been raised, you will be refunded a portion of the attributes invested in it. Attributes on item are essentially the secondary stats. So if you look on an armor piece, it can have, say, like anomaly power, firepower increase, stuff like that. If you look on weapons, it can have lifesteal, it can have crit damage, etc. So say you're dismantling an item with 3 secondary stats on it, which is the max you can get on an item. It will have one of them with the symbol next to it. That is the shards you will get from disassembling that. And as you'll see in the demo as well, disassembling items essentially builds you up a stash of these secondary attribute stats. If you go in the demo and scroll over the shard icon, you'll see how many of each different attribute you have saved up. And then if you dismantle an item that you have already raised the attributes on, you'll also be refunded a portion of the attributes you spent on that item. Now for the upgrading part, essentially each attribute on the item will have their own upgrade stages, so you can keep putting more and more of your saved up shards on upgrading that attribute. That's at the part that we don't know a ton of information on, because this is pretty much the only information I could actually find on it and actually find out how it essentially works. but I'm not sure if there's some type of arbitrary caps on items, if different items are going to have different caps, how much you can actually increase each one of these attributes, if you can upgrade all 3 of the attributes 6 times each. I'm not exactly certain on the specifics of that because that's a one part of the crafting system that really hasn't been shown too much. But the system itself is pretty simple past not knowing some of the specifics. You disassemble an item, it will give you some of those attributes as the currency anomaly shards so you can see how much you have, and using those saved up anomaly shards, you can upgrade the attributes on your items. Then we have a swap variant. Change the weapon's variant to another that is available for this weapon type. Weapon variants are unlocked as your character levels up. The cost of this action is determined by the level of the weapon and not the variant. And that write-up wasn't that specific, but essentially what this system does is allow you to change the firing mode of the weapon while also changing a bunch of its stats. So say if you have an assault rifle that's a standard variation, you could then go change that variation if you have it unlocked to say sharpshooter, and that would increase its critical damage massively, that would increase its fire rate, it would reduce its damage per shot, and reduce its magazine. And if I'm not mistaken, changing the variant also changes how the weapon fires. So say you could go from a weapon with 3-round burst to a fully automatic weapon, and that would change kind of the basic stats of the weapon as well. Now, I'm not sure if you're able to swap the variants of legendary weapons, because those are kind of unique named items that have their own stats that are kind of built around them functioning how they function when you get them. So I'm not certain if, say, you'd be able to change the Grim Morrow LMG and go change a variant to make it fire differently than it does. Past that, the system's pretty simple as well. You essentially change the firing mode of the weapon and change its base stats with that. And then we have the level up function. Rare, epic, and legendary items can be leveled up. This costs leather or iron for rare items and titanium for epic and legendary items. Leveling up increases an item's primary stats, firepower or armor, and re-rolls attribute values. So that's a secondary stats. In case of rare and epic items, this action also frees up one stage of available attribute upgrades. You can then increase the attributes by using the raise attribute system. Since a number of bonus attributes on an item is determined by its level, this action may result in the addition of a new random bonus attribute, and the attributes can go from 1 attribute at the lowest and then up to 3 attributes once you get to a certain level. And the one thing I'm not certain about with a level up function is how it's going to work into the endgame, because if you don't know, and I'd recommend going and watching my last video that goes over the endgame of Outriders, this is one of the topics I go over, is that once you get to level 30, you'll be able to keep upping the difficulty to keep getting higher level items. And you can do this all throughout the game. You'll see in the demo, we're level 7, but if you do World Tier 5, you're getting level 9 items. So say if you're level 30 and you're doing a higher challenge here, you could say get level 35 items. Now, I'm not certain if, say you're level 30 and you unlock that world tier that gives you level 35 items, are you able to level up items only up to the level 35, or are you able to keep upgrading items with resources up to the max item level in the game, which is 50 if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not exactly certain how this part of the crafting system will work at endgame. And I left this part of the crafting system for last because it is the most important part and the most extensive. And this is the mod gear portion. You can swap one of an item's mods for a mod that you have known in your list of mods. And you gain mods by dismantling an item with that mod on it. This action is repeatable on one item. However, when you choose a slot out of the 2 mod slots on an item, the other one permanently becomes locked, meaning you can only change one mod on an item. So say if an item has a tier 3 and a tier 1 mod, and you change the tier 1 mod to a tier 3 mod, that first tier 3 mod on the item now is permanently locked. You can't go and change that, but you can change the second slot as many times as you want. So you could change it to every mod in the game if you wanted to. And also note that with this part of the crafting system, you can put mods on items that can never roll those mods. So you could essentially have any combination of 2 mods in the game. You could essentially choose 2 mods in the game and put them on an item no matter what. So you could have 2 tier 3 mods on weapons, you could have 2 tier 3 mods on armor, you could have 2 tier 1 mods on a legendary armor if you wanted to. It really wouldn't make sense, but you could do it. And also mod effects don't stack. So if you put 2 of the same mods on an item, one of them won't work. It seems you're able to do that, which is a bit weird, but it won't do anything. And normally items that just normally drop won't have 2 of the same mods on them. And it seems a little bit confusing when explaining it, but it's actually pretty simple. You essentially have an item. If it's epic or legendary, it'll have 2 mods. Say you have slot 1, slot 2. If you choose to change the slot 2 mod to a different mod, the slot 1 mod on that armor piece is permanently locked. You can never change that slot 1 mod now. But that slot 2 mod, you can change to a different mod whenever you want, as many times as you want, if you have the resources. And then how you're going to go about getting these mods, which is one of the biggest pieces of progression in the game, is that you have to dismantle an item with that mod. To get tier 3 mods, those only come on a specific legendary item. So every legendary item, every legendary weapon or armor piece in the game has their own unique tier 3 mod on them. So say if you get 2 different weapons, 2 different legendary weapons, you could scrap one, get its unique legendary mod in your pool of mods, take the second legendary you got, re-roll the second slot, which would have, say, a tier 1 mod on it, and roll that secondary slot to the tier 3 mod from the first item, and now you have this legendary weapon with 2 tier 3 mods on it. And you can do this with armor pieces as well. So at some point, if this is the strongest way to make your build, you could have 2 primaries and a secondary weapon, all with 2 tier 3 mods on them, and then you could have all 5 armor pieces, all with 2 tier 3 mods on them as well. Creating strong mod combinations and synergies between those mods is going to be one of the most important parts for creating builds in the game, because the mods are incredibly strong, especially once you get up to tier 3 mods, and they can proc off themselves, they can proc off other effects, and they can have some pretty crazy combinations. And that is an overview of the crafting system for Outriders. I hope I explained it well so it was easy to understand. It will still most likely be easier to understand once we have the game and you can just go into the UI and see the options in there. But this should give you a good overview of what all of the different sections of the crafting system is going to allow you to do in the game. So subscribe if you want to see more Outriders or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about the crafting system in Outriders. And thanks for watching.